Hello and welcome to another Crochet Swatch Saturday. Today we are talking about this lovely CotLin from WeCrochet. This is a DK weight yarn and let's talk a little bit more about it. If you've been on the channel for a while, you know that I am somewhat obsessed with linen yarns right now. Now I've only gotten to make one project with them, but I'm excited to try multiple others. This is a 70% tangius, I think that's how that's pronounced, and 30% linen. Now tangius is just a step down from Pima cotton. So Pima cotton would be the nicest cotton you can get, and tangius is like the second nicest. The nice thing about this is it is machine washable in cold water and tumble dry option. So that is a super bonus, and I am going to make sure that I give that a good rating because of that. The one thing we are going to test, because this is a very vibrant purple, we're going to test the bleeding of this to see how much it actually bleeds. Now, we come in a, let's flip back over here. This is the color Lilac, by the way, and it's 123 grams, 123 yards, 50 grams. Let's get that right. And it recommends a 4.5 to a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, so we're going to use a 5 millimeter today. All right, let's see if we get lucky. We are doing the drawing the jackpot. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Oh, darn it. Wah, wah. It's actually from the outside. They do that all the time, and it is such a tease. So we're going to tuck that in there and try again to see if we can't find that center pole. It's always a gamble. Yep, okay. So that wasn't too terribly much yarn barf, just a little bit of yarn barf, just a little yarn baby. So let's see if we can find the edge here. I know it's always it's like the big mystery. Can we get there with little issues? Sometimes when I get major yarn barf, I just end up, winding the entire skein because it just becomes a mess altogether when it gets like that. So, all right, let's start with our single swatch. And I gotta say that I am looking at this right now, and if you can see that, there are little fibers hanging off. So there is going to be a bit of a halo to this. I haven't actually tested many yarns lately that don't have the halo, so maybe that's a thing. Maybe I'm just attracted to the yarns that have a halo. Maybe they add a little bit of softness overall to the yarn, and that's something that appeals to me. I don't know. What do you think? Do you prefer really good stitch definition, or do you prefer something of a halo to your projects, yarn, all that good stuff? So far this works up really super easy. I know I'm just getting started, but sometimes I struggle just with the chain, so we have to start somewhere, right? And the chain went really smooth. The single stitches are going really smooth. Now this is, while it is the color Lilac, I actually think it's a pretty vibrant purple. I don't know, I think of lilac as being a little softer. Maybe I'm thinking lavender. I'm probably thinking lavender. But I love this purple. This is definitely up there with my favorite purples. I think my very favorite purple is kind of a raspberry purple. It has a little bit more red in it than this does, but this would be a very close second. And one of the properties that I like about the linen, if you're not familiar, linen is supposed to have beautiful drape and allow for the project to soften up as you wear it. So it might not be soft right on the skein, but the more times that you wash it and you wear it, it gets softer with age. So that's always sort of a fun thing to think about. Okay, so here we are. And again, like some of the projects I have been doing lately, when I am using a 5mm hook on DK weight, it just feels a little bit too wide open for a single stitch. So I'm going to switch over to my 4mm. I'm switching to the 4mm instead of the 4.5, which I think overall the 4.5 is probably where I want to be on this. But I can't find my 4.5, so we're going to do the 4mm, as I said, because I haven't bought my 4.5. I haven't replaced it yet. It might be attached to a project somewhere. I don't know. I'm sure you get it. Tell me how many hooks do you lose on a regular basis? I think we just have to budget that in. Lost hook line item for our crochet craft budget. But I gotta say, I'm actually really liking this with the 4mm hook. I'm not having any issues. It's not tight. I'm not feeling like I'm having to, yank the hook through at all. I think I would much prefer this on the 4mm hook. So we're gonna switch that out and we're just gonna stick with the 4mm. Even though it said 4.5 to 5.5, it is definitely a heavier DK weight yarn. So because it's cotton, that cotton base gives it a little bit of heft to it. Cotton doesn't have quite the flowiness that some of the other yarn types have. And actually, the funny thing is, as I tighten it up, obviously, if you know anything about drape, the drape is definitely changing. So it kind of depends on what's more important to you overall. Do you want the drape or do you want stitches that aren't showing as much holiness overall? That's going to depend on the project that you're working on. The drape on the larger hook is much nicer. And that's the one that they recommend. So on the 4mm, the tighter stitches, it is not as drapey overall. Okay, so that's what we got. You definitely got some really good stitch definition in there. I can absolutely see every stitch overall, even though it does have that tiny, tiny bit of a halo. And I don't know if you can see it, but there's definitely some fuzz being left on the board. Can you see that? Yeah, that's all fuzzy fuzzy. Oh, I think I'm gonna have to sharpen these scissors. There we go. So we're gonna set you right over here. And I'm actually going to switch back to the 5mm just because it does talk about the 5mm is recommended, and I want to get, what that drape is like. So now we're going to try for the double crochet and see how that works out. And then we will take a few minutes and do a swatch bleed test on that and see how it swatches, how it bleeds. Ooh, that was snug. I guess I did that chain pretty tight. So as we sort of go through this, I'm going to start letting you know fiber content on this. The 70% tangius, the 30% linen, I think is a great combination. And while it's not the Pima cotton, I'm not going to ding on that because I think I don't think it matters on this. With the linen, I think that's totally okay. So we're going to give the fiber content a 10 out of 10. Now the color range, this CotLin is available in 50 different color options. To me, that's a lot. I think there is quite a wide range of blues and purples and reds and yellows. So if you have a slightly more specific choice, or you're like, well, I don't like, the blues in here, well, you probably can find another blue. So I'm going to give the color range a 9 out of 10. The only reason I give it a 9 out of 10 instead of a 10/10 is because I do know that there are some yarns out there that have so many different colors. It's just scary. So we're not going to ding it too much, but we'll give it a 9 out of 10 for the color range. On the splittiness, I have not gotten a single split yet. Knock on wood, maybe. We'll kind of keep going here, but so far I don't see any reason why this would be a splitty yarn. I think it's really smooth on the hook. It glides very nicely. I'm going to give the splittiness, or lack thereof, a 10 out of 10. Now the feel is a really hard one because it's a linen blend, which means it's going to get even softer with age. But I gotta tell you, this is pretty soft to start with. I mean, it's not like a cashmere or, a chenille or a velvet yarn kind of soft. But as far as a cotton blend with linen in it, I think it's actually a really nice starting place softness. And I would have no problem sort of wearing this, knowing that it's going to soften up with time even more. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 on the softness. Stitch definition, did I give you that one yet? I mean, I've got no complaints, even with the slight halo. So we're going to give that a 9 out of 10, just because there is a little halo, and I know some people prefer not to have that. So, drapability for a cotton, I think, especially when we look at, the looser hook, the bigger hook, over the smaller one, I think this has a really nice overall drape. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 on drapey. Okay, so here we go. Ooh. You can kind of see there's that little guy. That's a little of the fuzz that's coming off. So I'm definitely going to add that into the concerns. Here is our double crochet. Here is our single crochet done with the wider hook, the bigger hook on the top, and the smaller hook on the bottom. So let's go ahead and do our bleed test on our single crochet swatch. We will be right back. Okay, we are back with our washed swatch. Now you can see, as is expected with the halo, some of the definition has been lost. And I have a hard time kind of deducting because this is only the second time that I've done a swatch where I washed it. So is it fair to deduct? But it's definitely a factor. So I am going to kind of mark it down just a little bit on that. However, let's look. I mean, this is a very, very vibrant purple. And just to kind of remind you, here is our clean water. This hasn't been added any soap, nothing's been washed in it, so it's straight out of the tap. And here is the water that we used to wash this in. So you can see there's a little bit of a cloudiness to it, and you probably can't see it, but there are actually, let's see if I can zoom in. No, I don't think you're going to be able to see it. There are some fibers from the yarn on the bottom, so it does shed for sure. However, clearly it does not bleed, so we are not deducting anything on the bleeding for that. All right, and that means if we're going to score this, Frogability 10 out of 10, splittiness 10 out of 10, definition, we're going to deduct 2 for that. Feel is a 9 out of 10. Drape, even after it's been washed, it's still pretty drapey. So we're going to give it an 8 out of 10 because it's still cotton and it's still a little thick. Washability, we give it a 9 out of... No, you know what? We're going to give this a 10. Even if it's washed in cold water on low, it's still totally washable. So concerns, obviously, we do have some concerns with it shedding. And so we're going to give that a 7 out of 10. Price, 8 out of 10. So total on this, 10, 19, 29, 39, 47, 56, 64, 74, 80, I'm not that good at math, so 74, 83, and 91. So 9.1 out of 10. Hey, that's not bad. I mean, that's pretty stinking good. So we give it a 9.1 out of 10. What do you think? Will you use it? What should I make with it first? Now, right now, I only have one skein. I gotta buy more. But I really like that, other than those couple of concerns we have. So tell me what you would make out of it, and Farah, frog us out of here.